Hi there and welcome. In the upcoming presentation, we're taking a look at a Multishot and Digital Matte painting solution built by Goodbye Kansas. It's a custom setup made before we introduced the native Multishot toolset in Tech Preview in Nuke 15.1. Goodbye Kansas have shared insights into how they approached show, sequence, and shot segmentation when planning the Multishot strategy to get things done efficiently, which we hope you find valuable as you get started with multi-shot compositing. The overall philosophy, how Goodbye Kansas organizes shots and sequences, centralizes controls, and keeps everything in sync, showcases the possibilities of a multi-shot workflow now available in Nuke 15.2 and 16 and onwards. It also gives us a glimpse into the Goodbye Kansas kitchen, showing how they accelerate managing a high volume of shots and variations through multi-shot philosophy. Discover the art and technique of digital matte painting as Goodbye Kansas shows how the team blends creative vision with streamlined, technically optimized workflows, including the use of multi-shot setups and live groups to build expansive, story-driven environments for a fully CG episodic animation. So even if the tools look a little bit different from the built-in solution, we think you'll find their approach really interesting. So let's dive in.
Hello, my name is Carl Ryde. I'm a pipeline technical director at Goodbye Kansas in Stockholm.
And I'm Irina Shmedakova. I'm the matte painting supervisor at Goodbye Kansas. Today we are excited to share some of the tools we've developed to streamline our multi-shot compositing workflow in Nuke. We'll walk you through how the compositing and matte painting departments leverage this workflow. We'll show you our approach to publishing matte painting assets and setups for compositing using live groups, and give you a quick look at our EXR projection build tool. This process significantly boosts efficiency across multiple departments. But before we dive in, let's take a short moment to introduce who we are.
We are a premier cinematic production company, specializing in crafting breathtaking visual experiences for the game, film, and animation sectors. Our team includes industry veterans, artists, and technical experts who share a common goal: to create immersive, awe-inspiring visual storytelling that captivates viewers around the world. Here's a glimpse of the projects we've successfully delivered over the years.
Between you and me, nobody with a lick of sense is signing up for a job such as this.
What about you? Get your ticket out yet?
Was not the plan.
What's your biggest fear?
To live a meaningless life and then die alone.
Oh, we're the bad guys.
Story is a monster.
And this is how you make your way into history. That's what I'm talking about!
The idea for our multi-shot workflow was sparked back in late 2023 when we were awarded an episode on Blur's show Secret Level. We knew that we were going to deliver a 15-minute full CG cinematic consisting of somewhere between 200 and 300 shots, and this made us sit down and start to think about ways of how we could improve our current workflows when it comes to handling lots of shots inside Nuke. And at the start of each project, we group our shots into shot groups based off of characteristics of the shots. And that could be which environment we're in, which characters are visible in the shot, what's the framing like, and the more granular we are, the better. When all shots are divided, we pick one shot from each group, which we call the key shot, and the rest of the shots in each group are the sub-shots of that group. When the key shot has been set up in Nuke, we have a tool called Nuke Automation that can migrate the key shot to all the sub-shots and render them and publish them. And once that process is completed, the artists can go in and see what the result is. And in a perfect world, we would have no issues here. But we all know that you have to make shot-specific adjustments no matter how similar the shots are. And the downside with the rigidity of this is that if you make adjustments in some of the sub-shots, you can't run the key shot through Nuke Automation again without losing the smaller adjustments that you made in each sub-shot. Here's a flowchart of what we envisioned our multi-shot workflow to be like, where we have a context controller that lets you keep all of the shots in a shot group inside of the same script and make adjustments and view the result inside of the same script and render everything once we know what the results will be. So what we ended up with is 3 different tools. The first one being context-based assets, which lets artists define which read nodes should be updated when we go into a new shot context. Context filter switches, which state is determined by which shot context you're in, that enables artists to toggle certain parts of your script on or off, depending on the context you're in. And last but not least, the context controller, which is the hub of everything, where you define which shots you want to work on, which shot you should be in, and that also handles rendering and publishing of shots. But let's jump into Nuke and we can have a look at how these nodes work in action. Let's start by creating a context controller by hitting Tab and searching for context controller. The top part of the interface here is a list that shows all of the various shots that are available to you to choose from. And from the get-go, the only shot that is added is the shot that you launched Nuke for initially. And if we want to add additional shots, we click the Add Shots button. And we get this interface that lists all of the available tasks for the current shot. And for this demo, let's add all of the shots that are part of the same sequence. And to do that, we expand all of these so that we can pick the comp tasks that we're interested in below each shot. So in this text field, we can filter on the task name. So if we type comp-210, which is the name of our comp setup task, we can select all of them. And when we hit add, the context controller is populated with all of these shots. And let's say that we accidentally added shot 180. We could easily remove that by hitting the remove button to our right. And now it's no longer part of the multi-shot context anymore. So now we can jump in between these various shot contexts by hitting the set shot button. But to get a better visual cue of that we're in a new context, let's import some context-based assets. And to do that, we go to our pane ftrack import asset that lists all of the assets that are available on the current shot. And we're interested in the all render and in a volume render. So we pick the all render, pick the beauty component, and in options, we can click context based to read it as a context based asset. So let's bring in the volume render as well. And these read nodes look like a regular read node. The only difference with this is that it has an attribute that communicates with the context controller and says that when the context controller goes into a new shot, these read nodes should be updated accordingly. If we layer the volume render on top of our beauty, we can see that this is what the raw render looked like. And now, if we go from shot 10 to 20, we can see that this is what the render looked like in shot 20. And this is what it looks like in shot 30. And if you noticed, the frame range updates according to the new shot as well. So if we go back to shot 20, we can see that this is a far longer shot. And the resolutions of the shots are updated as well. But for secret level, all shots were rendered at the same resolution, so that's not really reflected here. Let's pretend that we get a note that we should increase the density of the volume render for shot 20, 30, and 60. We can do that by adding a small setup to the volume render by unpremulting it, creating a grade node and setting the grade node to affect the alpha channel. And to show in a more clear way that this is on or off, let's bump it to 2, so we double the intensity of the volume render. And then we premult it again. And this is what our fix does. Now, if we go back to the context controller, this part of the script is active no matter which shot you're in. And if we want to filter that, we can create a context filter switch, which is basically a glorified switch node. The state of this switch is determined by what's in the context filter here. And by default, we add the last two parts of what we call the shot path. And the shot path is listed in this shot column. And this basically shows where this shot lives in the hierarchy. So this is sequence 220, shot 20. And by default, the current context the context controller is in is set as the context filter for the context filter switch. A lot of long words. So in this, if the context controller is in this shot, the output of the switch node is the first input. And if it's any other shot, it will be the input 0. So if we go to shot 30 now, we can see that the context filter switch has turned red, and these nodes don't have any effect anymore. If we want to add this shot to be active in the context filter switch, we can hit the add current shot, and now it's green, and these nodes affect the image. We can also add shots manually by hitting comma and then typing 220_060. And now, if we jump to shot 60, we can see that this effect that we added is active here as well. And this can be applied anywhere in your script, and you can toggle anything on or off depending on which shot context you're in, which makes it very versatile to be able to process a lot of shots inside the same Nuke script. If we open a slightly more complex script like this one, which is one of the scripts that was used to make the compositing work for shots in this sequence, I'm gonna show you how the context controller helps the artists by giving visual cues about if certain assets don't exist in the current shot context. We'll talk about the caching as well, and the render and publishing, how we handle that. And we'll also go through the eject button over here. So first, if we jump to shot 40, we can see that this part of the script turns red. And this is done to indicate that the render of the water that is being used here doesn't exist in shot 40 due to it not being visible in the shot. And this is done to help the artist see that this area or this entire part of the script is not active in this shot, so I don't have to go there and check anything on that in this specific shot context. Regarding the cache, or this column that says clear cached assets, this button lit up when we left shot 60. This is because when you leave a shot to go to another one, before we actually change anything, the context controller gathers data from all of the context-based assets and store that data inside of a specific data structure. That is later being used when we jump back to that shot. And this is done to ensure that the artist recognize the setup when they get back to it, because if they had picked a specific version for the all render, for instance, that is the version that has to be there when they come back. It's also used to reduce the load off of our asset management servers, so we don't have to ask them all the time. And it's also used when we're rendering things on the farm, because if said artist has set up their comp around a specific version for the all render, and they submit something to the farm, if a new version has been published of the all render since they pulled it into Nuke, we don't want them to get the new version. We want them to explicitly say, I want to use this version, so that they feel like they're in control about what is being used and what's not being used. Down here, there is an update all shots to highest versions. When we click this, we will ask our asset management server that we're interested in these context-based assets for all of these shots, and then we will get a list of everything that is supposed to be used in shot 10 and 20, etc. And that will be stored inside of the caching structure for all the shots. So this is quite nice because it speeds up everything, and you can ensure, like when you pick up your shot in the morning, you can hit this, and then you know that I have all the night's renders for all of the shots, and you know that you're working with the latest and greatest. If we want to render some of these shots, we can select the shots we want to render and check the render checkbox here. And the context controller works together with our dispatcher, which looks like this. And this here lists all of the write nodes that are available in the current script. And you can see the order it will render in by looking at the order column here. And the higher the number, the later it will render. The comp main node is the last output of the comp. So this is what's going to be reviewed and published. The pre-lens pre-comp is a pre-comp that we make at a quite late stage in the comp before we add any lens-related effects, like adding lens distortion, adding grain, adding lens blur to the edges of the frame, and other things. So this should render before the main comp. So we drag this and drop it on top of here. And now the order has updated to 990. So it will render from the lowest part of the hierarchy to the top. The all pre-comp and the water pre-comp happens somewhere around here, after we have made all our changes that we want to do to the separate render layers. So since these two aren't dependent on each other, we can pull them together and add them to render before the pre-lens pre-comp. So now we have set this up so that the all pre-comp and the water pre-comp render in parallel, and once those are done, the pre-lens pre-comp is picked up and rendered, and when that is done, the main comp is rendered. So now that we have saved these options, if we were to hit dispatch renders, a task will be sent to the farm that opens up this script, set the shot to 10, and dispatch all of the renders that are available inside 010. Then it will jump to 20 and dispatch all of those shots, and then it will continue until it has processed all of the shots where the render checkbox is checked. The publish checkbox works in a very similar way, but the publish checkbox just tells the tooling to check if something is set up for publishing. It won't automatically publish anything for you. So if we zoom into the script down here, where we have the main output of our comp, we can see that there is a ftrack publish node hooked up to this. This is being used to cross-check the file paths that have been rendered against the inputs of ftrack publish nodes. And if there is a match there, this will be published to our asset management system. The last thing I want to mention is the eject feature that we have created. So let's say that shot 70, we have been working on this for a couple of days, but now shot 70 has become a shot where you have to make a lot of intricate changes that just complicates things to have it inside of a multi-shot script. Then you could hit the eject button, and what the tooling will do is that it will set the shot to 70, update all of the settings that is needed, the frame range, update all the assets, and all that. Then it will save a copy of the state of the script to the location where the scripts for this specific shot are supposed to be stored. Then it will jump back to the shot where we were when we hit the eject button, and then it would remove it from the multi-shot controller. And now I've been talking for way too long, so it's about time that I hand over to Irena, and she can show you how her DMP department are utilizing our tools that I've showed you.
Now let's talk about the matte painting side of Multishot and how we leverage this workflow. At Goodbye Kansas, developing the Multishot workflow was a major step forward for the compositing pipeline, and we in matte painting department wanted to keep up. So working alongside Kyle, we created a new workflow called DMP Live Groups, which took our matte painting pipeline to the next level. This advancement became especially valuable after delivering large VFX productions like Shogun or our cinematic trailer for Concord. And with these, with the Nuke Live groups, we streamlined the publishing process for projection mapping setups and assets, meaning that reducing this process to just one click. On top of that, this system gives compositors direct access to our DMP scripts, which improve the collaboration between matte painting and compositing. But what was the main impact for us in matte painting was the publishing workflow, as mentioned, which boosted the efficiency by 85%, making the entire production process faster, more seamless, and incredibly effective. Alongside this, we also implemented the automated projection mapping build, which enables rapid and efficient projection setup with the Nuke by automatically incorporating essential show data, and this system also eliminates the need for manual shot-by-shot configuration, ensuring a seamless handoff for composing the department. Together, these advancements have transformed our workflow, allowing us to deliver high-quality matte paintings faster and more efficiently than ever before. Now let's take a quick look at the breakdown of our current workflow and the tools that we use. So one of the terms that we use at GBK are what we call packages. At the start of every production, we begin by breaking down the show into tasks and sequences, organizing them into what we call DMP packages. These packages are structured based on several factors like complexity, repeating elements, lighting conditions, and specific needs of the tasks or the show. Our goal is to keep these packages as intuitive as possible and efficient as possible, not just for DMP artists, but also for the compositing team, ensuring a smooth and seamless workflow for everyone involved. Another term that we use at GBK in the matte painting department and the tool that we use is called DMP exporter. Every artist assigned to a DMP package gets access to this tool, and this tool makes it incredibly easy to export any VFX plate or CG render, whether it's coming from lighting or directly from your work in Nuke or Maya or Houdini, straight into Photoshop with a predefined location and proper naming conventions already set up. With DMP exporter, you can also quickly export additional AOV passes, have your overscan value automatically configured, and seamlessly convert your linear plates into a logarithmic color space, all with just few clicks. It's a simple yet powerful tool that streamlines the entire workflow, saving both time and effort. Another tool that we use at Goodbye Kansas in our department is what we call automated projection mapping build. With invaluable help from Kyle, we set out to develop a faster and more efficient way to build projection mapping scripts. You might be familiar with a similar workflow like the PSD breakdown tool in Nuke, which you may have used in the past, or maybe you're still using as part of your workflow. But essentially, our files that we export from Photoshop are multi-layer EXR, and these EXR files follow predefined layer and file naming convention, which is also linked to the DMP exporter. These naming conventions ensures consistency throughout the pipeline, and thanks to this approach, our projection mapping build can automatically extract the necessary elements from the EXR and generate a fully set up projection mapping script for you. The build takes care of things like reverting overscan, color conversion from logarithmic to linear, sets up depth data, vector data, and all the other essential information that the show and the compositing team needs, making the entire process much more streamlined. And finally, our favorite use of live groups in Nuke, which is the key to streamlining the entire workflow. With the Multishot workflow, you can set up all your DMP projection mapping for compositing configured filter switch nodes, which Carla demonstrated earlier, and make sure everything is working smoothly. Once everything is set up, you can easily check layers using the DMP layer context sheet for your QC check. You can render DMP precoms using the context controller, or generate sky plates and back plates for a lighting department, which then are being loaded as a reference for their scenes in Houdini. And what is the best part? Well, the best part is that this all can be done with just a couple of clicks inside one Nuke script. But what we really love about this workflow is that it allows us to focus more on the creative tasks rather than getting bogged down in publishing. For us, it's all about efficiency, being able to work on multiple matte paintings within a single Nuke script, just like a compositing department does. But let's now show you some examples on one of the shows that we worked on recently for Secret Level. So let's go over some of the examples. This workflow was fully tested during our major production for Secret Level. Here we have some of the sequences, or what we call packages, which consist of 2 shots or 2 angles. You can see them here in the context controller. At the moment, I am viewing shot 10. In DMP, we use a simple pre-compositing template where we input our renders, cameras, and show data, such as a final output resolution. These are being set up here at the top, which is essentially our data window. Below, we have our simple pre-compositing setup and our live group, which is a built-in Nuke tool, which, as explained earlier, we use to publish DMP projection mapping setup for compositing department. Inside this live group, which is called package 340, you'll find a structured data template containing the camera, projection cameras, format, and overscan data. This overscan data is automatically pulled from our pipeline and configured based on the show's requirements. These are driven by the data plugged in outside of the live group, which can be found here. To demonstrate a simple example of how this live group works, let's take a look at a 360 Skydome setup. For this, we use our Skydome template, where we load in our HDRIs, which we very often source from mattepaint.com. One of the great advantages of this workflow is really the flexibility we have. Sometimes a single HDRI doesn't always work for all the angles. So instead of being limited to one, you can select multiple HDRIs and use the filter switch to control which one is applied to each shot. Additionally, and more importantly, you can adjust the y-axis rotation dynamically, ensuring the Skydome aligns perfectly with each shot's requirements. But what if you need to create your sky just as a backplate with your mountains and midground elements? Well, to bring my plate into Photoshop, I simply take my lighting render, I go into GBK.io, I create my exporter, I set up my size, my overscan, and I tick whatever passes I will need for my painting in Photoshop. And I hit export, which exports it into a predefined location. Once my painting is complete in Photoshop, I make sure that my layers are correctly named and the EXR file follows the predefined naming conventions. Then I load the EXR into Nuke, go again into our GBK.io toolset. I select my EXR as well to make sure that this EXR is the one that we want to extract the data from, and I hit build DMP projection setup. When I click that, this tool looks for naming conventions. If we have a naming convention called OP, which stands for overpaint, we have the option to choose whether we want to build the projection on geometry or if we want to build it using the position pass. This automated projection build takes care of everything. It extracts all the layers, it crops the layers, it reverts the overscan based on the file name, and sets up all the necessary data for compositing. Thanks to our automated overscan tool also, the scanline render also applies the correct overscan data to this whole setup. Okay, so now I just plug my setup into my output. For that, I also need to create a filter switch and tell it to assign this projection setup to a specific shot, which in this case is 340 shot 20. 340 stands for a sequence. Now we have our matte painting set up. We can make sure all data are set up correctly by going to our contact sheet, which is outside of the live group. It's here. And this is essentially the data comp will be extracting when picking up this live group and comping all the elements together with the rest of the elements from other departments. Okay, so now we checked our data. I will look at this like final note to just check like what my layers look like with the rest of the lighting render, whether it works. And now it's time to render this for dailies. You can do it simply by pulling up this dispatcher, which is what Carl mentioned earlier in his part of the presentation. Or you can very simply go to the bottom of the script and send it to the farm, like shot by shot. When the shot is approved, now is the time when you need to pass the MP element on the compositing department. So when it's approved, you can now go simply into the live group. And when you double click it, and to publish this data, you can publish it by hitting this publish button. So if I hit it, it creates this ftrack publish node, and all you need to check in this one mainly is that you're publishing it into the correct sequence, into the predefined location, which is usually again set up together with the package, and it's communicated with production at the beginning of every project. And okay, so this is done. Your elements are now published for compositing, and they can have fun with all of your matte paintings and comping them together.
That's a wrap. Hopefully this gave you a clearer picture of how a studio-level multi-shot setup works, and how those same principles can be transferred into the native tools in Nuke 15.2, 16 and up. If you're interested in learning more about the multi-shot approach to your compositing work, please don't hesitate to visit our YouTube channel or Foundry Learn for more. Finally, a big thanks to Goodbye Kansas for walking through their processes. Please do check out their channel for more stunning work and breakdowns of how they did it. Thanks for tuning in, and happy compositing.